Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to this particular video. And our today's video is very much interesting and very informative because in the next probably 15 minutes, we shall be discussing about 10 passive income ideas that still work. And these 10 passive income ideas that we are going to discuss today are of very important, and you can probably think about them, and probably you're going to pick a few and form a portfolio investment with them, and later in life you're going to realize that you have actually come up with something or an investment portfolio that is going to help you in this in your financial journey. So here we are going to talk about 10 passive income ideas that still work, and actually they don't only work. These 10 passive income ideas, they just don't work. They are very much profitable when you look at the profit margin or the return on investments, and so on and so on. So ladies and gentlemen, that is why that's the reason why you need to stay subscribed in this particular channel, and make sure that you turn on the notification bell so that anytime I upload a video, you are the first person to get it. Now, don't also forget to share this video so that we can have a lot of people being educated. And also, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you leave a comment on the comment section and tell me more about what I'm going to discuss here. In case you have any other additional passive income that you would like to add, you can also put it on the comment section. Now, let's get to the business of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when you see me turning on this side, just know that I'm referring to my notes because I have written 10 points here, and just to make sure that I don't forget any point, that's when I'm going to refer to my notes. Now, on my point number one, on 10 passive income ideas that still work or are going to work in this Kenya's economy, let's talk about the dividend paying stocks, the dividend paying stocks. Now, when we talk about dividend paying stocks, we are talking about shares of a company, When we talk about dividend paying stocks, we are talking about the shares of a company. Ladies and gentlemen, you realize that when you buy shares of a company, just to take an example of Safaricom company, you buy shares of a Safaricom, for example, you buy shares worth 200,000. You buy shares worth 200,000 Kenya shillings. You buy shares worth 200,000 Kenya shillings. And then, if I give an example, if one share you bought it at Kenya shillings 10 shillings. If one share you bought it at Kenya shillings 10. If one share you bought it at Kenya shillings 10. What about 2,000 shares? 200,000. What about shares worth? Sorry for that. If one share you bought it at Kenya shillings 10, what about shares worth 200,000? If you cross multiply this is 1 times 200,000, you divide by 10, and here you get around 20,000 shares of Safaricom. 20,000 shares of a Safaricom. So ladies and gentlemen, this is just an explanation. I'm not saying that one share of Safaricom goes at Kenya shillings 10. I'm just giving an example. So you bought shares in a Safaricom company worth 200,000 Kenya shillings, and one share was going at shillings 10, just an example, then you have 20,000 shares. Now, when dividends are declared at the end of the year, probably, let's say Safaricom declares a dividend of Kenya shillings 1.50 per share owned. Let's say Safaricom declares a dividend of Kenya shillings 1.50 per share owned. Now, how much are you going to receive as your dividends? Now, this is the amount that you are going to receive. You are going to take 1.50 times 20,000. 1.50 times 20,000 shares that you own, and at the end of the year, you'll get a dividends of 1.50 times 20,000 30,000. That is 30,000 Kenya shillings. That is 30,000 Kenya shillings. So ladies and gentlemen, this is how dividends on stock or shares are going to be calculated at the end of the year. Remember, you might buy shares when the Safaricom share or any other company share was at shillings 10, but in the middle of investment or the middle of the financial year, the value of the share went up, and therefore it means if the value of the share went up, it means that the value in which you bought the shares also went up. So when the dividends are declared, you will also get a rise in the dividends to come. So ladies and gentlemen, when you decide to invest in stocks or shares of a company, that is what you expect. Remember, the share price can go up or it can go down. So here we are talking about between a loss and also a gain. So ladies and gentlemen, that is all about dividend paying stocks. Dividend paying stocks. In that line, ladies and gentlemen, before I move to my point number 2, you can also, now we have talked about the shares of a company, whereby you buy active shares in a company. And when you want to trade in the shares of the company, I think I have a video on the same on this platform, that when you need to buy shares of a company, you just need to have a CDS account, a Central Depository Systems account with any stockbroker, and then they are going to help you with trading of the shares of the company. You can also think about SACCOs, because even SACCOs, when you buy shares there, it's like when you save in SACCOs, you receive what we call dividends on share capital and rebates on the deposits that you're going to save there. So that was just an example, ladies and gentlemen. But remember, the first passive income that idea that still work is dividend paying stocks or shares of a company. Now, without wasting time, let's move to our point number 2 on 10 passive income ideas that still work. And my point number 2 here is real estate investments. Real estate investments. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about real estate investment, allow me to break this one into 2. We can talk about number 1, management of properties. We can talk about management of properties such as rental properties and so on and so on. We can also talk about real investment real investment trusts, or what we call REITs. Now, when we talk about management of properties or of rental properties, when you talk about management of rental properties, you can have a rental property probably for residential purposes, or maybe for renting out offices. Probably you have put up that particular property at the middle of the town, or probably it's just for the purpose of residential purpose, for the people to settle and live there. Now, when you talk about management of properties, is where you own the real property itself. If it's a plot, you have built some houses there, and now you are giving them out for rentals. And when people stay there, they are going to pay you what we call the rent at the end of every month. That is about the management of property. When you own the property yourself, or when you have built properties such as rentals and so on and so on. Now, when we talk about rates, it's when that you don't have the muscles. You don't have the muscles to own that particular property, but this you can form a group and come together and pull out resources and invest in real investment trusts, whereby a group of people, you come together, you join hands and pull out resources together, and these properties are divided into small units, and out of these small units, you can say that you have a share of a certain property in terms of the money that you have put in that particular real estates. So this one is, you are going to buy these shares from those companies that are going to manage the real properties now, and then you can say that you have a share there. Now, what you get in return when you invest in real investment trust is what we call shares or dividends. So when you buy shares of in real investment trusts, or those organizations that are going to own the real properties, you are going to get dividends at the end of the year. So those are two ways you can earn in real estate: management of properties, when you own the properties itself. For example, you have land and then you have built the property yourself, and then you are the real owner of the property, and then you get rent payments at the end of the month. Or when you don't have the muscle but you have joined resources with other people, and you have subscribed to the real investment trusts, to those companies that are going to offer those services, and you receive dividends at the end of each and every month. So ladies and gentlemen, that is another source of passive income that you could still think about. The reason why we are talking about passive income, not just any income, passive, because these are income that you are going to earn in minimal efforts. You are not going to work a lot. Your work is just to put money somewhere to invest, and then you sleep, and then you find that there is something on top. So this is money that you are earning with very minimal effort, or you don't even have to do anything for you to earn that particular amount. So ladies and gentlemen, that was my second point about real investment, real estate investment. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on my point number 3, let me talk about peer-to-peer lending. Peer-to-peer lending. Now, when you talk about peer-to-peer lending, this is a situation whereby you as an individual, you are going to lend money to individuals or small businesses in exchange of interests. You lend money to individuals or small businesses in exchange of interest. For example, me as John is approached by Sarah, and Sarah tells me I need some 10,000 Kenya shillings so that I can be able to sort out my bills, or I do 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to tell Sarah, then I'm going to give you this 10,000, and then in return, you are going to give me my principal back of 10,000 plus an interest rate of 10%. So I issued Sarah with 10,000, and when Sarah pays back the money, she is going to pay back at an interest rate of 10%. So 10 over 100 times 10,000, this is, if you do a very quick calculation here, that is 10 times, this is 1,000 Kenya shilling. So when Sarah returns the money, it's not going to be 10,000. It's going to be 10,000 plus an extra 1,000 interest. And that is what we call peer-to-peer lending. It does not happen only to individuals, but also to businesses, the small businesses. You as an individual, you can decide to lend a person who owns a small business. Probably he or she is having some liquidity issues, and then you decide to sort out the problem. Of course, you are going to ask for the security for the same. For example, I have seen individuals who do that particular business, and they are going to tell you, you need 10,000. Yes. Okay, we are going to give you 10,000 at an interest rate of 10% to be returned in 1 month or by 1 month, whichever. And then we are going to give us a security of, probably you can give us an asset like a laptop, your phone, or something that is of value or close to that value, that when you default that particular 10,000, we can actually be able to recover from that particular asset. So ladies and gentlemen, it is another source of passive income, because you don't have to do a lot. You just have to lend the money, and when the money comes back, it comes back with an interest. That 1,000 extra shillings that is coming back as an interest is what we call passive income. So ladies and gentlemen, that was my point number 3. Let me move to my point number 4 of 10 passive income ideas that still work and you can subscribe to them. Let's talk about creating and selling digital products. Creating and selling digital products. Creating and selling digital products. So ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about creating and selling digital products. Now, when we talk about creating and selling digital products, we are talking about online materials. For example, just to give you an example, electronic books, blogs, and so on and so on. So electronic books and blogs and so on and so on. So we can also talk about online courses. We can talk about online courses. We can talk about online courses. Now, let's talk about electronic books. For example, if you have an article or you have some information about something, for example, John has information about money market fund. And then I decide that since I have this information about money market fund, I'm going to write a very good article or come up with a book that is going to explain what is money market funds, what do you need to invest in money market, what does it entail, what are the risks, how is it regulated, how does it work, how much do you need, all that information regarding money market fund. I just put it in one article, and then I decide whoever is going to need this information, I'm going to sell this information online, or I'm going to put it somewhere, and when you want to access that information, you have to pay something like, for example, 200 shillings, 300 shillings, or 500 shillings, whichever. And that is money that you have earned with minimal effort, because you just have to come up with an article, put it online, and when people access it, you even if you are watching me, if you have been purchasing books from online, for example, you want to read a book and you want to purchase it online, those are what we call digital selling products. It's just a product. You have purchased a book on online basis. So therefore, there is someone who is earning out of that purchase that you have made, and that money that that person is earning is called a passive income, because that guy sat down, created that product, created that book, put it online so that people can purchase. Now that person does not need to work anymore. He just have to wait for the books to be purchased, and probably there is something that is going to earn, they are going to earn at their comfort zone. So ladies and gentlemen, creating and selling digital products, this one is very common with the current generation. You have seen the Gen Zs do a lot of things in online. You have seen, ladies and gentlemen, the Gen Zs creating content and so on and so on, and people can be able to subscribe to their content. So ladies and gentlemen, ebooks, blogs, and online courses are very much common when it comes to creating, selling digital products, and so on and so on. Now, that was my point number 4. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my point number 4. Let me move to my point number 5 on 10 passive income ideas that still work. My point number 5, let's talk about affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing. This one is very common in this. This one is very common, ladies and gentlemen. Affiliate marketing. This is where you, as an individual, you decide to promote or to sell or to promote the products of a certain company. It's like you become the person who is at the middle between the company and the buyer. Now you are at the middle. You are the person who is actually advertising that particular company. For example, if I decide to do selling for Jumia or Kilimall or whichever company, Kilimall is here, the buyer is there, and then I'm here at the center. Now, when you stand at the center and you decide to sell the products or the services of that particular company and actually do what we call advertisements of that particular company, you can do live advertisements, you can do blogs about that particular company, you can also do what we call you can do blogs, you can do online advertisements, or you can even sell the products of that particular company either online, or probably create content about that particular company based on the services that they give, on the products that they offer. And what you get in return is what we call a commission. You earn a commission through what you are doing. And this one is very common with the current generation. You've seen people advertise. There is these betting companies, the famous content creators who advertise betting companies. What they are doing is affiliate marketing. They are connecting people and the companies, and therefore through their videos and the blogs, and through them selling the advertisements of or probably talking about those particular companies, they earn what we call a commission. That is another way of earning a passive income. It is not just a service. You can also earn through selling a product of a certain company. That is also affiliate marketing, and then you are going to be paid based on the engagement when it comes to service production, or when it's coming to service selling, or based on the money that have been received by that company based on the sales that you have made again. So ladies and gentlemen, affiliate marketing, again, it's very effective and it's very good when it comes to 10 passive income ideas that still work. So this one works very well. You can subscribe to it, and at some time when you become so much famous, and we know this person normally does this, you don't even have to work. People will look for you, and therefore when you earn that money at your comfort zone and you don't have to put a lot of effort so that you can be able to earn that particular amount, then we call it a passive income, because it's money that has been earned through minimal efforts. So ladies and gentlemen, affiliate marketing, again, very important. If you think that you can do this, you just need some marketing skills and some selling skills. And remember, I told you, if you can be able to sell a product or a service, then you are in money. It is just that you have not discovered that you can actually become rich with those skills that you hold there. So ladies and gentlemen, that was my point number 5. Let's move to my point number 6. Now, when we go to point number 6, we are talking about renting out assets. Renting out assets. Renting out assets. Now, when we talk about renting out assets, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about assets, we are talking about motor vehicles, we are talking about land, we are talking about any other asset that you can rent out, and then when you give it out, that person is going to give you some money, probably monthly, quarterly, yearly, or probably you can talk about buildings and so on and so on. So when you rent out assets, you as an individual, you as the owner of the asset, you are not going to work. You've just given your land for people to work there, for people to farm, and then what they give you is money. They give you probably money on quarterly basis or per annum, or probably based on the agreement that you have sat down and agreed with that particular person, they are going to pay you per month. So it depends on the contract that you have signed between you and the person that you have agreed with. So again, renting out assets is very crucial, and it's very important when it comes to 10 passive income ideas that still work. For example, let me give you a very good scenario here. For those people who like working with debts, if you like going to a circle or a financial institution to get a debt, you can leverage debt on assets, and when you obtain those particular assets, you make sure that you have given them out to other people to work with them, so that you can get something at the end of the month. For example, if you go to a bank and you qualify for 5 million, you can buy a matatu and you put it in one company that you can trust, and then that matatu company is going to give you, it's going to remit some money to you monthly. And then since you took that loan to buy that matatu with a loan, you took it on debt basis, then you are going to take the money that you are going to be paid and then give it to the bank that you took the loan. And probably if the security was your payslip, you can even be able to secure some money and put more in your pocket and probably invest it into another investment. And ladies and gentlemen, I told you, debt is one of the fastest ways you can grow or become rich if you know what you are doing with a debt. If you can only be able to leverage debt on investment purposes, then you are on the right track. And I can tell you, even if you are to take so long to become rich, you actually shorten the period in which you become rich. So ladies and gentlemen, renting out assets, you can rent vehicles to do transport work, you can do car hire, you can even take your own personal car to a car hire organization, and then the organization is going to remit some money to you monthly. That one is another source of passive income. You can lease out your land. You can enter into a lease agreement with a person, and then when you lease out the land for it to be used whichever purpose, then you get some, again, passive income at the end of the year, or probably quarterly, or at the end of the month. So ladies and gentlemen, renting out assets is another key thing that you need to consider when it comes to 10 passive income ideas that you need to think about. Now, that was my point number 6. Let's move to my point number 7, ladies and gentlemen, and we're talking about high yield saving accounts and bonds. High yield saving accounts and bonds. Now, when you talk about high yield savings account and bond, we said when an investment has high returns, then you expect the risk to be higher. When an investment has high returns, then you expect the risk to be higher, because return and risk goes hand in hand. So when you invest your money in a high risk, in a high yield savings and accounts and bonds, for example, you see bonds are going to have probably 14% 14% interest rate or coupon rates, 14 to 15%. So it depends. You see, that interest rate is a little bit higher, but we say bonds are long term. It's not something that you're going to do on short term. If you look at treasury bills, which are short term, you can see the rate. It's 10% and below, depending on the period of investment. But high yield savings account, for example, you can see some money market funds telling you that we have a wealth fund. Other than money market fund, we have a wealth fund whereby the minimum investment is 1 million and the return on that investment is 15% on compounding basis. You see, that one is a high yield investment account, but again, it's going to have some high risk. You are actually subscribing to high risk investment. So ladies and gentlemen, when you think of passive income, you can think of high yield savings and bonds and so on and so on. I have heard of people talking about Mansa X of SBM Standard Bank, Standard Investment Bank, SIB Bank, about Mansa X, because it's going to have a high investment, a high yield or a high interest. But again, I want to remind you that that one is a high risk investment. But again, if it's a good investment, you can always subscribe into it. So ladies and gentlemen, high yield savings accounts and bonds is another way of having passive income. You don't have to work, you just need to put your money there and then you wait for the wonders of the world to happen. Now, let's move to my point number 8, my second last point, ladies and gentlemen. My point number 8, let's talk about creating softwares to solve problems. If you are a developer, if you are an IT guy, you can create softwares to solve problems. Now, if you are an IT person, you can create softwares to solve problems. Look at the person who developed M-Pesa. The person who developed M-Pesa is probably a billionaire, or I don't know, a trillionaire, something like that, because everybody now, you cannot do without M-Pesa. Actually, that person came to solve a lot of problems. Now, look at even the banks. For example, right now, we are moving deep into technology. And I don't know whether there are still people who normally go to the bank to probably withdraw cash or something like that, or to bank. Probably when you want to do bulk deposits and so on and so on. But now the technology is everywhere, and when you want to access some money from your bank, you can just do some mobile banking through the application. So look at that. Someone developed a bank application or a bank app whereby you can be able to just do 1, 2, 3, and then in the next few minutes you have some money in your M-Pesa, and then you can withdraw the money from your M-Pesa. And if you want cash basis, you can also go to available agent and also withdraw that cash. So when you develop these softwares to solve problems, you're actually doing some passive income, because one day, one time, you will not need to work. Because, for example, if you look at someone who owns M-Pesa, I am very sure even today, there is a commission, or out of every M-Pesa transaction, there is something that that person is receiving as a commission. Even if that M-Pesa was sold, it was not fully sold to Safaricom, but I believe there is something that that person is still getting, because, you know, that is something, that is your idea. You have to be paid because of it. So if you are a developer, you are an IT person, you can use your skills to come up with something very unique that you can be able to solve a particular problem and actually earn on it. And probably in later, you're not going to even need to work, because you'll be earning commissions or something based on the transactions. You can be able to earn something out of it. Now, let's go to number 9, ladies and gentlemen. Investing in businesses that does not require your presence. Businesses that does not require your presence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you remember when I was doing a video about passive incomes, we said that a business that is going to require your presence, if you open a business and for that business to run, you must be there physically. For that business to make some profits, you must be there physically. It means that business is not really an investment, it's just a job. It's just your job, because if you are not there, then it means that business is not going to work. But if you are out of the country, you can even move for 5 years, but your business is still working, then it means it's an investment, because we said a business that is going to operate and you don't need to be there to work, it gives you what we call a passive income. And remember the definition of passive income, it's money earned through minimal efforts, or money earned when your effort is not needed. For example, putting money into an investment account and then tomorrow waking up and you see there is some money on top of it. So this business that you have opened and you must work there for that particular business to have, then you are the same person who is in salary, because that person has to report to the job so that at the end of the month they can be given some money. All right. Now, if you are there and you own a business, a kiosk, whichever business that you own, and you must be there for that business to run or to make some income for you, then that one is just your job. It's the only difference is that you have employed yourself, and this person who is in salary actually have been employed by another person. So there is no difference. But now, ladies and gentlemen, if that business does not require your presence, for that business to generate some income, you doesn't need to be there. You don't need to be there. That income that is generated by that particular business is a passive income. So this is what I have seen most people subscribe into for them to get some passive income, and you can diversify into this particular area of opening businesses that are not going to require your presence. You just need to make sure that you have employed the best people, competitive people who can be able to run your business. We say if you want your business to prosper, then you need to employ experts who are even experts than you. Because, for example, if you open a chemist and you are not a doctor, then look for a person who is a pharmacist who is going to support that business and make sure that it runs well. There is no way you can open a chemist and then you want to hire a class 8 dropout who doesn't know anything to do with drugs. So, ladies and gentlemen, business that does not require your presence is another area where you can get passive income, or it's another passive income idea that is going to work. Now, let's move to our last point, ladies and gentlemen. Our last point, point number 10, is investment in biological assets. Investment in biological assets. And I think most people do not know what we mean by biological assets. Biological assets, these are living plants and animals. For example, a cow, a goat, a sheep, whichever, chicken, trees, fruits, and so on and so on. Those are living plants and animals. Those are biological assets. For example, if you do farming, those are biological assets. If you do cows or dairy farming, or probably you get sheep and put them on your farm, those are biological assets. For example, if you buy a cow, or probably let's just use a sheep or a goat, whichever, depend on your culture, whichever how you call it. Kwetu ni mbuzi, sijui kama ni kondoo ama ni gani. Now, we normally say that they appreciate in value so much because they can even actually give you returns 3 times. For example, the goat itself is growing up, so it's gaining in value. So when you bought it, it was so small, probably at 5,000 Kenya shillings. So when it's growing up, it's increasing in value. Now, remember, it can get pregnant and give you some other goats or other sheep, whichever. So that one is another production. Remember, there is also the aspect of manure. You can leverage manure to put it on the farm so that you can increase the production. So that one is another, because when you buy sheep and you put it there, your work is just to open for them to go and eat and then come back in the evening and so on and so on. The process continues. At the end of the year, when you value your sheep, you see, oh, I bought it at 5,000. Now I can be able to sell it at 15,000. Now 10,000. That is passive income. You incurred, there was no effort. The effort was very small. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, investment in biological assets. Watu wenye mko Nairobi, if you are living in Nairobi and you have your 10,000, your 100,000 that you have put, and you see that money market fund is actually, the interest rate is very low, because even right now there, and for example, you can take advantage of this, because if you feel that the money market funds interest rates are going down and they are very low, this is another area that you can think of diversifying in. If you are from a place where you can access some land and put such biological assets, they appreciate so fast and the return on investment is so good. But remember, when the return on investment is high, the risk is high. So here you are dealing with live animals and plants, and therefore in most cases you are going to look after them. You need to make sure that they don't get sick, because they can die, and so on and so on. Even poultry farming is another investment in biological assets. So ladies and gentlemen, dividend paying stocks, real estate investments, peer-to-peer lending, creating and selling digital products, affiliate marketing, renting out assets, high yield savings accounts and brands, creating softwares to solve problems, businesses that does not require your presence, and investment in biological assets. These are 10 passive income ideas that are going to work, and you can always diversify in them. Ladies and gentlemen, this information, you can only access it here in this particular platform, and that's why you need to make sure that you've stayed subscribed to this particular channel, so that we can always share this kind of information. Now, if you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Sir John Mweri. I'm a professional accountant with Xfinop Accountancy and Insurance Consultancy, and my contacts are always on the description. If you want to reach out to me, probably you want a clarification, you want to for business purposes, my contact is always on the description. You can even reach out to me and say hi. You can do WhatsApp, whichever. You can do call. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just going to receive your call and you are going to talk. So ladies and gentlemen, that was the video for today. That is all the information I had for today, and thank you so much for watching. We meet in our next video. That was my time. See you on the next.